From the 915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between, this is the 50/50 Podcast, powered by the 50/50 Podcast Network. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 Podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated. Here we go. It's another edition of Inside Texas High School Soccer, a special after dark edition, bordering on an early morning edition. Episode 11, Inside Texas High School Soccer. I am your host, Coach Hector Cano, along with my lovely sidekick here, the Obi-Wan Kenobi of Texas High School Soccer. He is Coach Rafa Castorena. Coach, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you? How's Georgetown?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Hey, different, different background, different backdrop, I should say. Here in the hotel, kind of doing it a tribute to you, right? The shoes on the other foot, I guess. We're used to seeing you with all kinds of hotel backgrounds, but no,
Mm,
man, Georgetown has been awesome. It's been great. 2 days here, 2 days in, and State has not disappointed. We're eight games through, 4 games to go. We're gonna get into all of that tonight. We're going to talk. We have some day one heroics, some craziness. 4A did not disappoint with record attendance. In case you did not see that, over 9,000 plus. Day two, we have more craziness, some absolutely crazy games. Wrapped it up with a great nightcap, unbelievable instant classic game. We got chaos going on in a certain part of the state involving more ineligible players. Yes, we'll get into that as well. Thank you for being here. If I am not talking as loud, I am in a hotel room and it's late at night, so I'm trying to be trying to be a little courteous there. So our apologies in advance. But before we get into all of that, Rafa, how are you, buddy?
good. Just been working hard here with the with the recruitment and just not much travel this year because of because of the STAR testing. So I'm back at it next week. But mostly I'll be in San Antonio. So and then getting ready for tomorrow's CFC game. I guess we have another. I'm sure we're having an early morning show. I think with Royce
Yeah.
and Harry. So,
Is it going to
so
be
you're up
another
at
6 a.m.? Another 6 a.m.
I'm
preview
I'm
show?
I'm sure they will. They'll have, I guess, hopefully they'll have the tacos ready and all that. So,
There
but
you
yeah,
go.
if you want to check out everything SAFC preview against Miami, who's kind of been the arch nemesis the last 2 years. Check out the SAFC fancast for updates on tomorrow's game.
Yeah. Awesome. Good deal. What time? What time's the show in the morning? What time?
I have not heard anything yet.
Okay, lad. What are we doing
Just
here?
that's it.
What is
That's
this? The
on
50/50
Royce.
podcast? Will we just go live
Royce
randomly, or what?
Racer Harry. So like I said, anywhere between 6 and 8 a.m.
Oh
We'll
wow,
just leave it as that.
that's a great window.
So
All
you're up
right.
between 6 and 8 a.m.
Yeah.
You can watch it live.
Yeah. Awesome. Good deal. Hey, well, joined in here by our friend out in the Panhandle, Mr. Kevin Gomez of Yellow City
Yeah.
Soccer. Kevin, thank you for joining us, buddy. You've been great all year. I know great follow-ups and stuff you've been putting out there during state as well. Hope you're staying warm up in the Panhandle. I know you guys were getting some snowstorms in April, but hope you're well. Hope everybody is well up there. And yeah, that's gonna be the first game we get into here just shortly, talking about the Panhandle. But before we start talking the specific games, Coach, just general initial thoughts. We're gonna have plenty of time to dive into everything, but general initial thoughts on what you've noticed 2 days through, or through 8 games and 2 days of state finals, I should say.
I think the initial thing, we had a lot of first timers into for 4A and 5A into the finals, and some very interesting matchups. A couple rematches from regular season, I guess, or you could say regular season pre-district games. Um, there was look. I think the biggest downside was a lot of people were kind of saying, with the Division 1, Division 2, it's kind of
Hmm.
water it down and so forth. All the big teams are going to be out, but these last 2 days they haven't disappointed. I mean,
No.
you had some exciting games and some nail biters, and I mean, what more can you have asked? And then I'm sure you'll mention about the attendance on Thursday, which what's a kind of like a little record setter there, and which we'll
Hmm.
get into the details of that. But
Yeah,
it just shows, like I said, it's been a successful first 2 days so far in Georgetown.
yeah, yeah. It was a great, it was a great turnout day one. I did hit on it briefly right now in the intro, but 9,000 plus paid in attendance. That's not counting, that's not counting media. That's not counting coaches. Additional coaches that were there.
Hmm.
That's not counting workers. Any of that other stuff. That's just paid attendance. Um, excuse me, and that was on a Thursday. And those 4A showed up, man. 4A definitely showed up. I think Wimberley, probably about 65% of the town of Wimberley was there. um, but even Canyon, Randall, they for out where they are, for as far as they are, they showed up as well. So um, yeah, day one was great. Yesterday, we're gonna start there before we get into today and day two, 5A. But it was one thing that we'll mention. I mentioned this a couple of times to a couple of different people I spoke with, including the coaches, Tasco directors, board members that I was speaking to. Um, six of the eight, we now have 12 state championship, state final matches. And so we're two-thirds of the way through. And six of those eight have been first time champions so far. So that is also something that we're going to start to see more of with this new format, right? So it's allowing certain schools the opportunities that maybe they previously did not have. So and we're going to get into also just seeing kind of the DFW area, which is just a power, as we all know, a great power, national power, a great hotbed of talent. But things didn't follow the traditional format as we've seen through 2 days, particularly today. So yeah, it's been interesting. It's been good, and yeah, just a great way. We wrapped up today, day two, with a phenomenal matchup, 5A D1 boys final between Southwest and Walnut Grove. It was an instant classic. It was a great, great, great match. But all right, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna jump in here, and we're gonna get going. So let's see here. Here we can go. All right, full screen here. So again, our UIL State Day 1 and Day 2 recap. And we're going to go ahead. We're going to start here with Randall, Canyon Randall. All right. And Wimberley, final score. And so obviously it went to extra time and it went to regulation, overtime, 2-2 tied at the end of regulation. Went to penalties in a crazy shootout. And Randall is victorious. They emerge as your D2 champions, winning it in penalties, 7-6. Thoughts on this one, Coach?
I think going into this game, it was like a very evenly matched, two evenly matched teams, but two teams that had very successful seasons. You know, Wimberley kind of had been knocking on the door the last couple years. Kind of being with that district with with Davenport, Canyon Lake, and then also with Bernie last year. They were kind of getting there,
Hmm.
and they finally broke through. They won the district title. They won the region and able to get to the final. Same thing with Canyon Randall. Like I said, that they were able to kind of get through and finally represent the Panhandle area. And we knew this was going to be like a very kind of one of the probably that could be the top game of the day. Because it's just so much talent on both squads, and I wasn't surprised this went to extra time or even to penalty shootouts. And but kudos to both teams and kudos to Randall for getting the win. It sucks to lose in penalty kicks, um, but like I say, hats off to Wimberley. But congrats to Canyon Randall. Like I said, they found a way and they're able to put it away at the end and get that critical save on the
Hmm.
on that eighth kick. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah. I mean, both keepers shined in
mhm,
in a penalty shootout, and yeah, I mean, Coach, or we have Kevin Gomez in here from Yellow City Soccer
mhm,
talking about a shout out to Johnny Contreras for stepping up, uh, make two great saves and penalties. Yeah, both keepers did. And it
mhm.
was kind of one of these of like, oh my God, is this going to be like the Liberty Hill shootout from before where they went 13-14. But yeah, it was a great final, great way to kick off the state championships there in Georgetown. So congratulations to the Canyon Randall Lady Raiders. They are your 4A girls D2 champions. All right, we move on here.
And also, shout out to Kendall McLean for being the MVP of the game. Only
Yeah,
a sophomore, so keep an eye on her for the next couple of
yeah.
years.
And then we move on to our next one here, our 4A boys D2 final. Between Gainesville and Austin Achieve, and this was an interesting one, right? So many storylines here, and Austin Achieve becoming emerges victorious here. They become the first public charter school to win a state title in soccer. And then the other part too is the name escapes me, Greta. Oh my God, her last name is escaping me right now. But they become so Austin Chiefs becomes the first team, first boys team to be led by a woman coach, female coach, to win a state title. Pretty historic. Your thoughts on this
Mhm.
one, Coach?
You know, this game was very interesting because they're not household names like some that you're used to seeing like Palestine, Sanelli,
Right, right.
they're burning last year, um, Salado, those are the teams you kind of normally see. And like you mentioned, with this new format, these were like it's new opportunities for teams that they can get hot during the playoffs and get to this point. And like I said, Gainesville's not really known for soccer. Up close to the Sherman area, just north of Denton, and Austin Achieve. We did hear about them. They made a run last year. Fell short against Bernie. They won their district title. They, like I said, they split the title this year with Northeast
Yep,
Early College, and but we knew they had a good squad. They're thinking, it's probably an opportunity for them to win. Maybe one of the favorites to win Region Four,
right.
and they really took advantage of it. And this game could have gone either way. And I know the goalkeeper from Austin, she made some great saves to kind of keep Gainesville off the scoreboard, and finally Austin she was able to get one in, and that's all she wrote there. They
Yeah,
were able to hold off Gainesville and be the first public charter school to win the state title.
yeah. Pretty crazy stuff. Pretty awesome stuff. And on a side note here, we got BC Sports Dad in here talking about the Highland Park crazy news. No idea what you're talking about, sir. Have no idea what you're talking about. Thank you for chiming in here. Great to have you. Yeah. So big congratulations to the Polar Bears. Austin Achieve as again they become the first public charter school to win a state title, as well as first boys school to be led by a female soccer coach. Congratulations to the Polar Bears. All right. Okay, we move on here, and our next one here, this one emerged as an interesting one. A lot of storylines going in. Salina coming in with a chance to make history, become the first team to win 4 consecutive state titles, and Davenport breaking through, finally being able to break through the regional final round all the way to the state championship. And these were two programs that are very familiar with each other. And Davenport came out firing early, control, kind of seizing control early, making Salina work for this one. Thoughts on this one, Coach?
Yeah, this game was very, like I said, it was interesting. Like I said, what Salina's done the last 3 years, and they were basically kind of untouchable. I mean, they've kind of flexed their muscle, especially on what they did the last couple years. I know they had a game, a little tight one last year with Bernie, but then they were able to pull away. Davenport gave them all that they can handle, and they had a lead, and just I think the big difference is Atlanta's been there. When you win three of them, you don't really panic. You find a way, and like I said, they found a way to win this one, and um, so kudos to, like I said, to Solana being the first team to win four in a row. I think that's a big accomplishment there. I think in any sport, I think it's been a while since any team sport has won four in a row. Um, as far as state titles here in Texas, I think the last one might maybe be like a six-man football team. I think I remember maybe have done that, but
I think the
um,
last one I can, off the top of my head, maybe, and like I said,
mhm.
this is not. It could be lower level possibly basketball. Um,
Yeah,
what is it? Is it Nazareth or I don't know if it's one of those, but
that might be Nazareth.
that comes to mind. Or
Mhm.
otherwise in big school, particularly football. Only one I can think of that comes to mind most recently, maybe Lake Travis, four in a row, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe. So
Or yeah, I think
just throwing,
so. I think
yeah, just throwing that out there. I'm not sure, but this was a great game. This was by no means a an easy one for Salina. Davenport made them work, and yeah, it was this was a really good match to watch, and unfortunate for the Lady Wolves for Davenport, but they played a great game. That Davenport goalkeeper was incredible. She had a
mhm.
great match, and you could tell the longer this match went 0-0, right? Davenport started to come along. Davenport started to get their sense of just starting to kind of settle into the game a little bit more. And yeah, it was a great game, good test. What you would expect from Davenport, but Salina, in the end, figures it out, gets it done, and they make history and winning four in a row. So congratulations to Coach Adams and the Lady Bobcats. Really awesome to see. But yeah, we have. Speaking of the
It's like
devil,
Alito. Yeah, I forgot
Alito.
about Alito.
Six,
Jonathan Gray.
well, I mean, yeah, but I'm saying is well, I guess what we're arguing is most recent. Was it Alito? But
I
people
think
think in
so.
terms of the big schools, but they tend to forget
Allen.
about a lot of the smaller schools too. So, uh, yeah, Alan, there we go.
Well, now with Salina having four, are they gonna go for the thumb next year? I mean, they're probably gonna be the clear favorite for the
Yeah,
thumb.
we'll see. We'll see. How much longer will they remain in 4A? I guess that's really the question, right? That
Mhm.
will become the question. So awesome. So congratulations to Salina Lady Bobcats. They are your 4A Girls Division One state champions. All right, and we move on here. So all right, we move on to Division One, our 4A boys D1, or we move on to D1 boys, I should say. All right. The interesting, this was the nightcap of the group here between Castleberry as well. I know they've been in your RPI all year, Coach, right?
Mhm.
As well as the Salado Eagles. And this was another one that went into overtime as well. And Salado emerges victorious late in the match, and winning it, pulling away 3-2. Takeaways on this one.
Going into this game, like I said, it's kind of another, like I said, a couple new first timers again. But the only crazy situation out of this is like Salado hadn't played. You know, they didn't play a state semifinal, and with that, with the whole fiasco with the Progresso situation, would that affect them? Not playing a game. Would it be a little bit rusty? Going into this one since Castleberry was able to have a game. Prior
Right,
to
right,
this,
right, right.
and it was an evenly matched game. Castleberry had the lead. They had a couple, like I said, golazos on there
Hmm.
of a free kick, and then but
And
Salado,
Castleberry came out fast. Castleberry did
yeah,
they came out very fast, and you could tell that Salado in the beginning kind of looked like a team that hadn't played in about almost 2 weeks.
yeah.
They did look like that. But then again, they finally settled in and they turned the tide. So big credit to them. Very entertaining match. A lot of there was a lot of this was probably the game most talked about today from yesterday in terms of the play, the back and forth, some of the decision making. Officials, calls from officials came up a little bit as well in this one. But yeah, congratulations to the Salado Eagles. They win their first state title and are 4A boys D1 state champions. All right, and we move on now to today, Friday, April 11th, day two, and we start. It was we knew this one was going to be electric. 5A girls Division Two final between Frisco Wakeland and Cedar Park, and boy was it electric. First 8 minutes, Cedar Park found themselves up 2-0, and you could just get the sense of there was this great cloud of everyone in the stadium trying to process what was happening. And Cedar Park had a dream start, absolute dream start for Cedar Park. Thoughts on this one, Coach?
Going into this game, like I said, we interviewed the coach from Cedar Park. He mentioned, they faced each other early in the year, and they kind of felt that they can play with them. And knowing going into this game, you had to have a really good start, even a fast start to, kind of go toe to toe with this team and I guess with Wakeland, and what a dream start for them to get two goals, like you mentioned, 2 goals in 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And that
Up
and
three
that's
up three
sometimes
zero at halftime. Yeah.
it's and sometimes you got to throw that first punch, to wake up, to kind of send a message out, and they just didn't look back when they got that third one, um, and you mentioned Wakeland was kind of knocking on the door, just missed some good opportunities, some great saves by the Cedar Park goalkeeper. They're able to get one, but it was a little late, and um,
Mhm.
you gotta give kudos to Cedar Park. Just giving up one goal through this run too. That's the insane part too.
Right, right.
To go give up only one goal through all the way to their championship run. It just says that their defense did an excellent job, and um, in this, like I said, for them, it's a great accomplishment for them to win the first one, and
Mhm.
big congrats to them because, like I said, they really earned this one, and like I said, they went in with this with no fear, and that's on some
Right.
of these games you have to go in. You may not be the favorite, but if you can throw kind of like the good first punch, it can really set the tone, and
Yeah.
I guess I think they set the tone of this game, and they didn't relinquish it throughout the
Yeah.
whole game.
Yeah, and the thing about it is the interesting piece about this one was Wakeland was taking nothing away from them. Obviously, they were working. They were working hard.
Mhm.
But this was they did not look like the Wakeland that we're used to seeing, right? Some of it was, I think, Wakeland came out initially quick, and then Cedar Park countered, and then boom. Because Cedar Park, Wakeland controlled possession in large chunks in the beginning, but Cedar Park was just opportunistic, right? And they made their few moments count. And then there was that 8 minutes in, it's like boom, they're up 2-0, and now now you get the sense that Wakeland has to really, not only are they not used to being in that situation, they have to chase it, right? They have to chase it, and it was just moments of just uncharacteristic Wakeland in terms of what you had seen. And rightful, that does not mean that they weren't working hard, but also credit to Cedar Park. They're defensively, they fought them for everything, every single ball, everything was contested, and defensively they played very well, very organized. And Wakeland kind of had their moments of being completely, largely disconnected, where they did not struggle to get the ball into the attacking third, but there were not enough numbers, right? There were not enough numbers pushing forward, or moments of just being disconnected between their attacking group and their midfield. And Cedar Park took advantage of that as much as possible. And then, of course, Wakeland. Interesting story here was, Cedar Park's up 3-0, and we're inside of the last, 15 minutes of the second half, and I'm in the press box with coaches, some of the media people, and I tell them it's like Cedar Park has not allowed a goal the entire playoffs, and then boom, Wakeland scores. So I jinxed them, but yeah, they saw out the game, and like I said, Wakeland inside those last 20 minutes, Wakeland put some shots together, put some opportunities together, but credit to Cedar Park goalkeeper as well, as she made some solid saves, some quality saves down the stretch that if she doesn't, this game gets very interesting very quickly. So credit to Cedar Park. They emerge, and they get it done in a big way, and one of our very first big upsets along the way, as they also snap Frisco Wakeland's 54 game unbeaten streak. And the Cedar Park Lady Timberwolves, they are your 5A girls D2 state champions. All right, we move on. All right. Oh, this one, this one we got some talking to do about. Highland Park, Liberty Hill. Now, the interesting piece about this one was this game just kind of felt, it was an interesting one because Liberty Hill struggled to put anything that looked truly dangerous, or that was going to put Highland Park under pressure. It was a lot of battles in the midfield, but Liberty Hill connecting passes into their final third and getting quality shots off was tough for them. And this was a game that felt like, even though it was 2-0, Highland Park appeared to be in relative control. Thoughts on this one, Coach?
Yeah, yeah, that game that they had right before the final. I wonder it kind of took a little toll on them. Kind of, you know, because like I said, it was it was a long shootout. Even though they had a kind of
Right.
almost a week to recover, still it still takes a toll on you. But I guess Highland Park really kind of scouted them well, and they saw something that maybe that they could really shut if they can shut down their midfield and not let them generate anything. Like I said, they can take full control of this game, which they did take advantage of. And you mentioned about they got 2 goals in that first half, and that also they needed. They pretty much hit it on
Right.
cruise control to the rest of the game. And then sometimes, like I said, it doesn't. It's not always pretty, but if you're able to execute your especially your defensive game plan, it's going to get you a win. And this was the end result. Like I said,
Hmm.
Highland Park winning the game on field, just being able to execute their plan and kind of stifling Liberty Hill because, like I said, there was a bit. No one expected Liberty Hill to be in this because, like I said, they finished fourth in their
Correct.
district and they made a big run. They knocked up some pretty good quality teams on the way, and but like I said, Highland Park had a good game plan to kind of stifle them and just pretty much cruise to this until we heard about 2 hours ago about the
Yeah, what
big
was
the
that?
big shocker, and I'll leave that
Yeah,
to
so
with you.
that was essentially, again, credit to Liberty Hill too. I mean, they just, they didn't go away. They came to play. Highland Park put them under the right amount of pressure, and Liberty Hill just struggled to connect the right passes in the right areas, and really, struggling to put Highland Park under any like real threat. So yeah, that was the action on the field. And then so we thought at the end of this it was Highland Park emerging as the 5A boys D2 state champion. So then, little less than 2 hours ago, we get this bombshell dropped on us. So Highland Park ISD, and I'll just read this verbatim here. Following the conclusion of today's UIL 5A state championship game, our athletic department was made aware that an ineligible student participated in the match. Highland Park High School has confirmed the student's ineligibility. Again, that's ineligibility, and the district will be self-reporting the incident to the UIL immediately. This results in a forfeiture in the state championship game. We would like to recognize the Harlan Park boys soccer team for their hard work, dedication, and the way they represented our school throughout the season. So that came down, I don't know, probably about what, 10, 15, 10, 10, 25, somewhere right in there.
Yeah,
And then UIL follows that statement from Highland Park ISD with this statement of their own, talking about they received a report from Highland Park regarding its use of an ineligible player. So basically, long story short, this is basically indicating the immediate press release that Highland Park had reported to the UIL about the ineligible player that they just mentioned, and it was confirmed. So here's the interesting piece. Consistent with the UIL Constitution and contest rules, which states that minimum penalty for allowing an ineligible player to participate is forfeiture of the contest in which they participated. Highland Park has forfeited the state championship game. As a result, Highland Park state championship opponent Liberty Hill will be awarded the Boys Conference 5A D2 State Soccer Championship. And that's the end of the release there. So, yeah, where do so surprise, surprise, right? This has definitely been a theme. What it seems like a theme this
playoffs.
this playoffs. Yeah, thoughts on this one, Coach?
You know, we got hit with one early on with Valley View getting disqualified before going into the playoffs. And then last week, like I said, I was at the game at the Region Four D1 final um, with Salado. And like I said, with between Salado and Progresso, with Progresso being also. disqualified prior to that game. Actually, 3 hours before that game, 4 hours before that game should have started. Um, also for an ineligible player, and this happens, and um, I'm wondering if this was been, there's some questions. I know I talked to messaged Kevin about it. We kind of discussed it from Yellow City. So was this already was there an investigation already going on, or I know it's self-reported. You know, it's just very, like I said, confusing on why,
Right.
if you know a player's ineligible, why in the heck would you even play him?
Hmm.
And or unless they knew, unless kind of the situation with Progresso, they had to wait to that kind of like that due process, and finally until they got all the evidence, and then finally make that decision, which like I said, they did a decision right prior to the game. I guess UIL wanted to play this game because if they don't play this game, that kind of didn't wouldn't look good, but still doesn't look good anyways.
No,
You know,
no.
either way, you're in a no win situation anyways out of
Right.
this. So, um, what out of this, how I'm wondering now, what is the UIL is going to do to kind of. There's no way to prevent this, but what can you do to keep it from going further, because it does affect other teams, and maybe there are some other teams that they mentioned, like the like Hidalgo should have played Salado in the, like last, that, or others and so forth. It's just for when to announce it right after the game, it's just kind of mind boggling. And now it doesn't state as far as the circumstance. They didn't say if it was because of an eligible because of grades, or because
Correct.
of or of a residency, or or amateur
Yeah. There's
status. We
number
don't
of
know
factors.
yet. Yeah, we'll find out. I'm sure we'll find out more these next few days as far as why this forfeiture occurred. Um, but it's I feel bad for those players. Like I said, you wait to get to this point and to win it, and then they take it away. It's just not fair for for those kids. Just all that hard work just to get to this point to have it taken away. But it not to be able to follow the rules is something, as a coach, that is your responsibility. You got to make sure everything's done right, correct, and so forth. Dot your I's and cross your T's. It's something that it just kind of puts a black eye on, especially on this playoffs, because we haven't really
Mhm.
had something like this in the playoffs the last since we've been covering them. We haven't had
Correct.
this really,
Yeah, this has
and
been a
this year,
lot this year.
yeah,
Yeah, a lot.
this has kind of been a black eye out of this, and I'm hoping maybe something there's some consideration for next year.
Yeah.
My one thing I mentioned to Kevin about when we were kind of discussing this, with district certification, is maybe they need to do district certification a week before the first playoff start. That way, there's enough time to sort all of this. But as like I mentioned, sometimes investigations do take longer than others to get the
Mhm.
all, because you're not going to disqualify a team and then, oh, I'm sorry, what, it should have been playing.
Right.
You know, it's there's no perfect solution to this. So I don't know how whether UIO is going to how will they move forward and
Yeah.
kind of prevent this, or whatever solution they can
Well, I guess
find to.
the first place to start is like why. Okay, I think we're all kidding ourselves
Mhm.
if we think that this does not happen, right? I mean,
No.
regularly it happens. Um, I think some people are better at covering it up, not getting caught, sweeping it under the rug, whatever you want to say. It is a tall task in terms of the UIL being able to police this, right? So in the end, it comes down to us, right? Us as coaches, as administrators, what have you, doing our due diligence and double checking, triple checking, understanding the I didn't know is a sufficient explanation, right? Obviously, we can't speculate here as to what this is related to, but I mean, it raises so many number of questions in terms of you realized you received the report. that there's an ineligible player after the final, right? So so many questions there. It's like, so is it better to kind of, is this a better to ask for forgiveness thing, kind of thing? Who knows? Who knows? We don't know. And I do hate to speculate because we don't, I mean, do honest mistakes happen? Absolutely. But on our biggest stage in terms of, our sport in our state at this level, it's like these are the kind of things we don't want to see. And I'd like to think collectively, yes, we're better. We know we're all better than that. But it's kind of one of those things where and yeah, this is exactly what I was about to get at. We got Mike Youngblood in here. Feeling for Liberty Hill too, winning by default, by disqualification has to be. It's a mixed. Yeah, what gets lost in all of that is this Liberty Hill group, right? Is yeah, you're awarded this and absolutely and rightfully so, but it's also kind of one of these things where how do you feel about it? How do you handle that? So just an interesting dynamic all around. Thoughts on that as far as it relates to Liberty Hill, Coach?
Yeah, there'll be other. I think others will say, "Well, you didn't really earn it on the field because you didn't really win the game and stuff." But that's not a fault on yours because you did follow the rules, and you showed up and you did everything correct.
Correct.
Yes, you didn't win it on the field, but you did the right. You followed like I said, whatever the UIO mandates, you followed them and stuff. That wasn't followed by Highland Park, and it kind of reminds me like similar to situation like when if you remember like the '80s with Dallas Carter winning the state title, and then they took
Hmm.
it away and gave it to Judson, you know,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
kind of similar situation, and um,
It's not like this is unprecedented.
yeah,
It's happened before, but
mhm,
you don't like to see it happen, obviously. And yeah, I mean, and you're right though. The rules piece, right? They matter. It's important. And I know we'll have some people in here who are kind of like, well, why does Liberty Hill get it? Or, again, this is a UIL, this is in the UIL Constitution, right? This is the procedure at this point. There is no rewinding and pushing the season back or, another week. That's not how it works. So in the end, it kind of leaves us, yeah, in this kind of bittersweet in between. Yeah, Dallas Highland Park won the game. We just talked about the game, but then we have this, and in the end, it will be Liberty Hill who's in fact emerges as your 5A D2 state soccer champions. So, any more thoughts on that, Coach?
well, like I said, we can just stay tuned and see what materialize, from this. Why the reason is for this ineligible player, um, but definitely, like I said, I know this won't be the last time we may experience this. Hopefully it doesn't. But um, and like I said, I'm like reading kind of Mike's question because when the player alleged ineligible, was it just for the championship or was it prior to that? Because like I said, I mentioned to Kevin, was the UIL already investigating this and they just finally made a final decision, kind of similar to what Progresso, right before the game,
Mm-hmm.
they decided to that. But like I said, this was a quote unquote self-reported.
Yeah.
Um, like I said, just for the championship previous rounds and how these teams must feel. Yeah, I mean, all those. I mean, like Highland Park beat Mesquite Poteet. We integrated Poteet's
Mhm.
coach, and I mean, maybe they should have been here at this game against Liberty Hill.
Yeah.
It's just a lot. A lot of questions that's gonna be
And
asked.
the tough part is in the end, it kind of puts the UAL in this position where kind of having to play the bad guy, where the reality of it is like how those other players feel, how those other teams feel. It's not being insensitive to them, but it's like that takes a back seat to trying to get this right, in terms of the investigation, in terms of the ineligibility, what happened, why did it happen. But I think that's the big question right now, right? That the UAL faces is why is this happening? Why all of a sudden? What are the trends? What are leading to these? What are the common factors that we can immediately, that they can control, that we can control, that we can immediately fix? Because all of a sudden, to have this many number of teams DQ'd in a playoff stretch or right before a playoff stretch, right? uh, pretty eye opening. So thanks again to Mike Youngblood for joining us. Appreciate you, buddy. All right, we will move on here, and then we move on to Game Three on the day uh, of the 5A Girls D1 final between Colleyville Heritage and A&M Consolidated. I was personally very excited to watch this one. Was looking forward to covering this one, and because I had this interesting feeling, right? You had Colleyville Heritage with a pedigree, the tradition,
Mhm.
just the culture of excellence of always being in that mix, right? Regional semifinal, regional final, state tournament, what have you, and A&M Consolidated making their first trip here all the way to the state final, and just, I mean, really controlled this game. I felt end to end, start to finish. Thoughts on this one, Coach?
Yeah, like I said, look, Colleyville Heritage made the final last year, so this is a second straight appearance for them. You know, they lost last year, but this, like I said, this is a kind of like an opportunity to kind of redeem themselves. And then you have an A&M consolidated team that I was very high on. You know, I had them in my top, actually in my top three, I think top five RPI teams. They're the team to watch. You know, like I said, I think this was like a special season for them. They hadn't lost a game yet. Um, you know, Region Three is like it's a for them. They played some really quality teams. Like you saw you had the Georgetown teams. You have Figueroa Hendrickson. You know, they had to beat some teams that had gone
Right,
real
right.
deep and or like I said, like Georgetown made the finals a few years ago. You know, so but I knew this was going to be a very exciting game. I didn't think it was going to be a 4-0 game. I thought it'd be a lot closer, but you got to give it a consolidated. You know, they kind of flexed their muscle in this game, and they knew that. Like I said, they cannot. You know, there was no room for error. They know the tradition what Heritage has had the last few years, and like I said, they had to go in. You know, go in for the kill. Like I said, and they just kind of picked them apart and like I said, they really earned this, and like I said,
Hmm.
congratulates to them winning the state title.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this was as just, I don't know, as much as I've been impressed with A&M Consolidated all year, right? We talked about it RPI after RPI.
Hmm.
I specifically talked about this group about they're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere.
Hmm.
And then they just continue to go along as consist, probably start to finish the right up there, right as one of your top two, top three most consistent programs all year. And then they were just another class in another class today versus Colleyville Heritage as they pulled away. You know, it was 2-0 and just a very methodical, very consistent. Again, just very, almost El Cucuy esque, right? Just a machine, right? Up 2-0 at the half, put another two on them in the second half, and final score 4-0 as A&M Consolidated Tigers. They are your 5A girls D1 state champions. All right. And we move on to our nightcap. What was probably up to this point, maybe the match of the entire weekend thus far. Instant classic here between Walnut Grove, Prosper Walnut Grove, and San Antonio Southwest. And with Walnut Grove emerging victorious in a late goal in second overtime. And they emerged the winner 3-2. Thoughts on this one, Coach?
We know this one's gonna be probably like I said. I know that we highlighted the Cedar Park Wickling game. I think that was kind of gonna be the could steal the show, but this one also stole the show too. Um, like I said, you had Walnut Grove second year program making their first appearance. Same thing with Southwest. You know their slogan Cedar Bus, and they finally got to the big dance and their opportunity to win a state title. So we knew this is going to be a very competitive game, and uh, very odd that we had we had two own goals for each team, and um,
Yeah.
you know, so but back and forth, and um, Walnut Grove took the lead. Southwest came back on that own goal, but then Walnut Grove got the second one. But Southwest kept on fighting and fighting. They got a on that free kick just outside the 18. He was just able to get by the goalie, just unable to. I don't know. I thought he was gonna get that. Maybe he should have kind
Yeah.
of punched. If he punches it out,
Yeah,
I think that
you
goes
can
away.
argue when we looked at it again, you could argue
Mhm.
maybe a little bit of the positioning in relation to the ball,
Yeah.
right? But and his wall. But yeah, it was a perfectly struck ball though.
Mhm.
Perfectly struck ball. This game was the energy in this game was incredible, right? Both fan bases traveled very well. San Antonio Southwest, I think the entire school district was there. Probably it looked like all of
Oh
Southwest
wow.
ISD. Um, but I mean, great atmosphere, great environment, great weather. Uh, it was a tough, very tough physical game. I thought, all things considered, the official was battling through it and attempting to call the best game they could given the conditions. Very obviously high intensity, and yeah, I thought Walnut Grove. It they found took them a little while to find their groove in terms of what was going to work. And San Antonio Southwest, same thing. This was back and forth, very much back and forth, back and forth. Neither team willing to relent, and it's just a great match, start to finish. And right when you thought, that was that thing. That's what we had talked about in our
Mhm.
last episode, right? Was very much so of what when one team was seizing momentum, the other team came coming right back with just their intensity, and they would score one. The irony of well, I shouldn't say the irony, but the interesting part of this one was I mentioned to you when I called you after the game is I've never seen excuse me. Have I seen a game before with two own goals, one for each team? Yes. I've never seen those two same own goals in almost play out in the exact same way, in the exact same part of the field, in the exact same goal. That I have never seen, and that's what happened here, right?
Mhm.
There was an own goal apiece, and and for Southwest, when Walnut Grove had their own goal, that's what really kind of energized them, right? That's what really got them going as well. But fabulous environment is the type of game where you walk away kind of wishing neither team could lose, or saying it's like, or you feel for the team that does not emerge victorious in this one, because San Antonio Southwest played on a great game. But Walnut Grove, who had gone, wire to wire, start to finish, another big, both of these teams, two big RPI teams all year, particularly Walnut Grove. They emerged victorious 3-2. And for San Antonio Southwest, for the Dragons, and shout out there to Chief, who's been a big listener and supporter of the podcast. Hate to see your guys come up short, one game short. I mean, that was the hashtag, right? That was the motto all year,
Mhm.
hasta el final. And I can say they can walk out of there with their heads held up high, no matter the score, because they put it all out there in in the finale here today. So, final thoughts on this one, Coach?
It was a back and forth game. There was kind of, a little two different styles because you can notice Southwest was absorbing them and really hurting Walnut Grove on the counterattacks, especially playing the balls on the wing. That's where they really did a lot of the damage. And I think Walnut Grove made I think a good adjustment in the second half to kind of stop that, and they really kind of took over in that midfield, and they're able to get that lead. But like I said, Southwest kind of fought back, and actually Southwest almost won it in regulation. That last play,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
kudos to the goalkeeper from Walnut Grove, who I think should have been the MVP.
Hmm.
Um,
You're not
he
alone.
made
You're
two.
not alone.
He made two great saves in the last few seconds, because if he doesn't make those saves, we'll be talking about Southwest as a state champion here.
Hmm.
Because like I said, but kudos to him. He really you know earned his cap today, because he was making saves here left and right. And just a kind of a little miscue on that free kick. It was perfectly placed. He just, I think he tried to get his hands on it instead of kind of maybe trying to punch it out. But and that's a goalkeeper coach talking.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
probably would have done that, but he just had a great game. He had a good command of it. But kudos to both teams. Like I said, don't
yeah. Oh, yeah,
this was a great game, and who's to say we don't see them again next year? I mean,
yeah,
that's what they
yeah. I mean,
mentioned. They could see them next.
Walnut Grove's MVP of the match was a freshman, so that's
Mhm.
telling you something. Yeah. Yeah, but I agree. Very would not be shocked to see these two battling for it all again next year. So, all right, and that that does it, Coach. That's day one. A look at day one and day two. Of course, it couldn't just be a simple day one and day two. We had to end it with all kinds of fireworks and chaos and controversy with the story about Highland Park. Very unfortunate. And in the middle of all of that too is again feeling for that group. Right, is the rest of that group in Highland Park. So very unfortunate. So a lot of questions to be asked, a lot of questions that need to be answered, a lot of processes and procedures that need to be reevaluated for sure. So, but that is going to do it for episode 11 of Inside Texas High School Soccer. Uh, Thank you again for being with us. For those, I know we have over across all our platforms over 450 listening to us right now at 12:38 a.m. And all I gotta say is thank you. I love it. We really appreciate you guys, and just kind of goes to show how much people just love our sport and just our Texas high school soccer family. We absolutely love you guys. Thank you. Um, to all the coaches, all the colleagues, different media folks I've been able to talk to over the last 2 days there in Georgetown, and then of course I did want to give a big shout out to the Georgetown ISD staff, right? Faculty, staff, all of that. I mean, they run just a tremendous operation, tremendous event management there. The athletic department there at Georgetown as well. Thank you for hosting us. They've been great. They've been awesome. And Coach Venegas, Eduardo Venegas, the head women's soccer coach there at Georgetown. You know, him and his assistant, they've been awesome. They've been absolutely awesome as well. And just the whole group, Booster Club, parents, everything there from Georgetown, absolute class. And they're just very welcoming, and just always got a smile on your face, the smile on their face, and just it's awesome to be there. And it's been a few years since I've had the chance to go there and be there, and now being there with the podcast, it's been great, and it's good to be there, and just good to see so many people there that are part of our sport and supporting our sport and being ambassadors for our sport. So it's been a great 2 days. Thoughts, Coach?
Just like I said, for tomorrow. There's going to be more exciting matchups for 6A. We got 6A coming up, and
Correct.
so if you have a chance, you head out there to Georgetown. You get some, some dynamite. I could say the last four games of the season, for 2025. If you can look at it that way, and um, especially the last one's going to be very, very a real doozy between
Mhm.
Elsick and Klein Kane. So, um, but for all the like I said, just for all the teams from today and yesterday, like I said, all the teams, congratulations to all of them, whether you won state or not. It takes a lot to get to this far to this game, and it's something to be look back and be proud of. Not everybody gets here. Like I said, it's a selective group, and just like I said, just be proud of this accomplishment, and because like I said, you're going to cherish this for the rest of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Could not agree more. And I did want to get in here and share this before I forget. Here's a look at tomorrow's schedule very briefly. So again, these will mark our final four matches of the 2024-2025 season. I always get a little bit emotional, a little choked up on this one, just when we know we're going into the last day of the season. But it's 6A, so the big boys, as they say, right? The big schools join the party for our final four matches of the season. Estimated kickoff times 11 a.m., 1:30 p.m., 4 p.m., and then our nightcap at 6:30 p.m. Starting us off at 11 a.m. It is our 6A D2 girls final between Louisville Marcus and Houston Stratford. At 1:30 p.m., 6A D2 boys final between Mesquite and Austin Vandergrift, and that I think is going to be a very interesting matchup.
Mhm.
Then 4 p.m., 6A Division One girls, Coppell versus Austin Lake Travis. What will that look like? You got back-to-back Austin schools there in the greater Austin area, Georgetown. What will those fans, will they travel, and what will those environments be like, for their home teams, if you will. And then our nightcap, 6:30 p.m., 6A Division One boys final, and our final match of the 2024-2025 season. Klein Kane making their first appearance ever in the state title match versus Alif Elsik. Thoughts on these, Coach?
The first game is gonna be a dynamite. You have your perennial power, Marcus. Year in year out, you always hear them regional final, state semifinal, final. But they're running into a really good Houston Stratford team. It's going to be a battle. I think this can go either way. The second game is a very interesting. Mesquite making the first appearance, and Vandergrift. I know they came last year. Like I said, they made it to the state semifinals last year. With last year's format just kind of fell a game short.
Yeah.
But here's their opportunity to win it all, and the 4 o'clock game is going to be a class. It's a rematch from a game earlier this the season. I mean, Capel, like I said, the history they've had, and women, girls soccer, especially in the Dallas area. But then, like I said, Lake Travis has also built a great, a great program too.
Right.
It's going to be a little kind of clash of the Titans here, and so I'm sure the Capel fans are going to be, like I said, they'll be in groves there because I've seen them, boys and girls. They always have a good turnout, so it's going to be a
Yeah.
fun environment. And then the last one, you're going to have pretty much the Houston Classic, two Houston area teams. Klein Kane, Coach Carrasco, on his first year there, first state district title, first region title, and now maybe opportunity, maybe like you mentioned, it could be. Hopefully, he has the movie rights, maybe first state title.
Yeah.
If Disney's watching, there you go. But
Yeah.
then you're running into a Aleph Esok team that made a statement against Katie Seven Lakes, knocking off the two-time defending champ. You
Hmm.
know, and can they finish the story here for
Yeah.
them, and,
Yeah.
and get that state title.
Yeah, and we got Mike Youngblood in here again one more time at Hoops Mike with his completely unbiased opinion about good luck Cavs. If you haven't had a chance, right, we talk about Mike Youngblood regularly, who's been a big fan of, or friend of the podcast, and we're big fans of his on his calls on Texan Live. Um, Calls other sports. I know he covers, I think, volleyball, basketball's his kind of go to, but I know he calls a lot of baseball too, some softball. But I tell him all the time, it's like, dude, your best calls are soccer. What are you doing, dude? What are you doing? But he doesn't listen. So, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, Mike, the voice of the Lake Travis Cavaliers. Um, I think. I think it's going to be a great match between them and Coppell tomorrow. What will transpire, we shall see. I'm excited to see what those environments are like, right? Especially with the two Austin schools playing back to back. So awesome. All right. And, Coach, we start to wrap up here. Any final thoughts? What do you got?
Like I said, just good luck to all those teams for tomorrow. Like I said, should be some fun games, and look forward to seeing 4 new state champions. For each division, and I'm sure we'll discuss that. Hopefully, I think more likely on Sunday about it. And that'll be the wrap for the 2025 season.
Yeah. Yeah. Will be. It'll be fun. It'll be exciting, and looking forward to it tomorrow. I know we will be in the house at least for 3. Don't know if it'll be all 4 games for sure yet, but looking forward to day 3. And yeah, I think what a better way than these 4 dynamite games to wrap up our 2024, put a bow tie on our 2024-2025 season, and really looking forward to it. Wishing all the coaches tomorrow, players, the best of luck. Parents traveling, fans, supporters, everybody, students supporting, or traveling, I should say, who are there to support on a Saturday. Careful, travel safely, be careful, have a plan. And to all of our student athletes that have competed over the last 2 days, and their coaches as well, congratulations, win or lose, whatever the final score was, congratulations on. It is so hard to get to this point, and to win it is sometimes, it can be
Mhm.
sometimes harder, almost inescapable. And the number, was having this conversation with some coaches today too. It's like the number of coaches, great coaches, like unbelievable coaches, who have never won a state title, who have never come even close to a state title, is is pretty humbling, right? It's pretty humbling. So to get here, when you're here, you just I always say, be in the moment, enjoy the moment, because you're never guaranteed that you're coming back. You're never guaranteed that. So, um, so yeah. Uh, any other thoughts? Was that all your final thoughts, Coach?
Just like I said, just looking forward to see. Hopefully, I'll probably be able to see some of the early games before I head out to Toyota because, like I said, I have my other obligations with FTC and 210
Mhm.
for the game against Miami FC,
Cool.
Miami FC, and
Okay.
hopefully, like I said, I'll be like I said, looking forward to talking about the 6A, hopefully on Sunday,
Mhm.
and hopefully talk to some state championship coaches in the next couple few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, and for me, my final thoughts, I wanted to wrap up with kind of a little, definitely on a more somber note. Wanted to pay a tribute. I just had this, unfortunately, had to just deal with this situation like this, like maybe 3 weeks ago, and then just got word earlier this week, again, that I lost another friend of mine. Excuse me, another friend of mine, great coaching friend, helped me when I arrived at St. Mary's Hall here in San Antonio on the private school side. Legendary coach, great coach, longtime coach, one of the top 10 winningest coaches in the state of Texas, Brian Kasner. His passed away on Tuesday, and got the uh, got the phone call right after I had finished my soccer class, our lift. It was our lifting session with my girls' class, and it was kind of a gut punch again. And just wanted to pay tribute to him, who's an unbelievable man who stood for so much, and an absolute heart of gold, and just the shirt off his back kind of person, and absolutely great coach in his own right as well, who gave so much to this sport. Who was former instructor as well for NSCAA, and just gave so much to the sport. Gave so much. He just absolutely loved. He loved St. Mary's Hall, and he loved soccer. Right, and those were the two things. And I think he was a saint too, because he put up with me for, I think, what, 7 years. So, and my heart goes out to him. My heart goes out to his family, his great wife, his lovely wife Jane, the St. Mary's Hall family as well, who've been so great to me for so long as well, and but most of all to Brian. Thinking about you, buddy. Miss you, love you, and I'm glad that you're finally resting at peace. So that is going to do it. Again, transitioning here. Make sure you please like, rate, subscribe. Go on there. Give us a follow. Go on YouTube. Hit that subscription button. Hit the bell for the live notification. The live notification notice. So this way you won't miss anything we do, since just about everything we do is live. If you prefer to listen to the traditional audio podcast, go on there as well. Whatever your preferred podcast platform is, we're on all of that. Go on there and subscribe. Give us a review as well, because that helps us get out there and circulate more. But in the end, really appreciate the growth that we have seen over this season in particular, this year in particular. We're so grateful for you guys. The fact that we're on here at 12:51 a.m. and there's about 500 live listeners, that is humbling, man. We really appreciate you guys. We love our Texas high school soccer family, and all I can say is just being humbled to see just the amount of passion over the last 2 days that I've seen there at Georgetown. Is I just take a few moments to take it all in and absorb it, and just be appreciative of it. So thank you to everybody. But yeah, so next episode 12, we should, if all goes well, should be coming to you live on Sunday, where we will discuss all of tomorrow's action, Saturday, April 12th action, the 6A day. Looking forward to that as well. And then from there, hopefully we'll get in at least some episodes of our traditional champions episodes, where we get to sit down and, as Rafa alluded to earlier, talk to some coaches and maybe some players from some championship squads. So wish us luck. We'll see how that goes. Sometimes just tough to work with everyone's schedules, but look forward to it. Those are some of my absolute favorite episodes. Lots of fun. So, but that is going to do it. Again, make sure you please like, rate, subscribe, follow us, all that good stuff. Thank you for being here this late. I know this was a after dark edition, being here in Georgetown. But yeah, really appreciate all of you guys. But until the next time, you know what to do. Keep downloading and keep listening. You've been listening to the 50/50 Podcast, powered by the 50/50 Podcast Network. Help us continue to grow by liking, rating, and subscribing on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to follow us on X at 50_50pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Until the next